That's better? So I'm so happy to introduce Mike, who is in Neighborhood 1. I didn't realize he's only been here 14 months.
Not in neighborhood one.
Still can.
You know,
Two.
it's great.
It's working, you just need to turn the volume up.
Yeah, well, the volume is over there.
Yeah, the volume's over there.
Would you mind going turn it up and turn it?
So I'll talk loud, I want to pop your earballs. But anyway, he is well known to the Neighborhood 1 folks because he often speaks.
He's in neighborhood two.
At the top, I think, on the left-hand side.
He often speaks at Bill Deerhake's multiple informative, great discussions, knowledge seekers. And he will tell you how he became interested in this and how he then created this presentation. I will say this is spotlight presentations because he offered to give a trace talk, but as you know, trace talks are organized way far in advance, once a month, so we had all the slots filled. So to make sure we have pop-up talks available, we created this series called Spotlight Presentations, and Mike will be the first Spotlight presentation. It's very timely that his talk came out because as you see from the handout I put out there, yesterday's AARP October-November magazine came out and they have a whole spread in the back section on AI. So Mike's talk will be very timely. So Mike, I'll let you take it away.
Okay, well, thank you.
You got your button? Yeah.
Welcome to today's presentation on artificial intelligence. And the focus of the talk is to create content using artificial intelligence, to create content that would be useful and interesting to you as individuals. And let me, first of all, let me tell you how to pronounce my name. It's spelled D-A-C-H, but I tell people to make it easy. It's like, what's up, Doc? So just, if you see me in the corridors, at Galveston Crossing or Boston Square or whatever, just say, what's up, Doc? Okay. One of the social activities that I'm involved in is the American Association of University Women, AAW. They have a great decisions program. And I Zoom host two of the groups. Ever since COVID, we quit meeting in person, which I think is terrible because I've lost out on a lot of good desserts. But so we're doing it over Zoom, and this year one of the 8 topics was the threat of artificial intelligence to American national security. And in some of these discussion groups, we try and have a group leader, somebody to lead the discussion of the topic. And nobody wanted to take on the AI threat to American national security. So I volunteered by default. And I didn't know anything about it, so I just got hold of the briefing manual that comes from the Foreign Policy Association. And I just copied a bunch of talking points into a PowerPoint presentation. And I started going through the talking points, and after about 3 or 4 minutes, people started yelling at me, "Stop, stop!" And I couldn't understand this. What was I doing wrong? Did I have my shirt buttoned or what? You know, stop, stop. I said, "What's the matter?" They said, "We don't understand this." I said, "Well, I don't understand it either." I just copied it out of the briefing book. What do you want me to do? And they said, we want you to explain what AI is and how we can use it. And I said, well, I'm not prepared to do that right now, but we can come back a week from now and I'll have some guidelines. And a lot of people came back. It turned out to be fairly popular. And so what I've done is brought that presentation here, to Eagles Trace, and I've had a lot of people at Eagles Trace actually give me input to this. So this is really a joint presentation between myself and Frankie, and we've had other people like Bill Deerhick and others that have also contributed. So it's not a one-man contribution. What I'd like to do is the format of this, frequently, when you have a speaker here, like on a TED Talk, the speaker goes through the entire presentation, and then you have a question and answer session without interrupting the speaker's presentation. I'd like to do things a little bit different the way we do it with great decisions. I'm going to go through a few slides, and then I'm going to try and pause and see if people have questions or contributions, because while you may be learning something from me, I'd like to have, an opportunity to learn something from you all. So let's see if that'll work, and we have to get through this in about 45 minutes or so, and let's just try and do it that way, okay? So try and keep the questions short, but don't try and refrain from asking something that's on your mind, okay? Now, this is an outline of the presentation. So in some cases, you may want to hold your questions until you get to this particular point in the outline. First, we're going to talk about the types of AI systems. Then we're going to talk about popular AI tools. By tools, we mean software. Apps is another term that people use. What can AI do for you, which is what everybody's interested in. How to communicate with AI. As Frankie says, how to chat with chat. The words that you use are called prompts, commands, suggestions. There's a lot of terminology. The technical people like to use the word prompt, and the prompts fall into different categories like positive, negative, and creative. Then we're going to talk about AI safety, easy steps that you can do to protect yourself when you're using AI so that you don't have any problems. And then we're going to talk about facts. So we have different types of facts. We have real facts and we have fake facts. And the facts are, so we're going to talk about those. And then we're going to get into something that's really serious. We're going to take some medical text that's has a lot of jargon in it that most of us couldn't understand. Now, Dr. Frankie can understand it, but most of us lay people could not understand these complicated medical texts. Now, I think when you get blood tests, usually when you go into get a test, on the blood test that they load the information on your account at the hospital, your hospital account, usually it says what the normal range is next to the actual test results. And so that one, you have a pretty good idea. But if you're doing an MRI or an X-ray or a Doppler scan, things like that, it's almost impossible to understand what it's about. And so we're going to go through one of those. And then finally, we're going to do some fun things with AI, mostly involving picture creation. So that's the outline that we'd like to go through now. There are a number of different AI terms for different types of AI. the general term is called traditional AI, and in that case, the AI performs a lot of different tasks. You can even do get predictive results for something that you're interested in. So that's traditional AI. With generative AI, which is what most of us want to start using, we want to create something new. We're all familiar with browsers, web browsers. The web browsers go out on the web and we ask for information that's on the web. But we're taking existing information and grabbing that with the browser and using that. In the case of AI, we're going out on the web and getting existing information, but we're converting it to something new. And that's what the generative AI is all about.
Mike, a lot of people are taking pictures, but you said you would share the slides, right?
Oh, that's right.
Why don't you explain that so people don't have to take pictures? You can get his slides.
Yeah, I will, anybody that gives me their name and wants a copy of the presentation, they can have it, and I've been providing it not in PowerPoint because it's a very large file, but in Adobe PDF file. It's the same slides, but it's just a much smaller bandwidth is required in order to download it.
How do we get that?
I'll just have after the presentation, you can just sign your name and just, I'll send it to you.
Email?
You don't have to put your email address on there because I can look that up on the resident directory.
Okay.
Okay. Another type of AI is conversational AI, and many of us have encountered this. We may not recognize that we've encountered this, but this is the ability to call up a bank or a large box store like Amazon or Best Buy or what have you, and order something or find out or call up your financial brokerage firm and you want to find out what information that's going on your account. You may not be talking to a real person. You may in fact be talking to a robot. And these robots have been programmed to simulate human conversation. And that's conversational AI. That's another type of AI that many of us may inadvertently have encountered, and sometimes we don't realize it.
A lot of times you see that, when you get the little box that says, would you like to chat with a virtual assistant? That virtual assistant is an AI running in the background.
Okay, did everybody hear that? Virtual. Sometimes it's called the virtual assistant. It's to give you the opportunity to chat with a virtual assistant, and that's a robot. Another type of artificial intelligence that we want to talk about is agentic AI. And in the case of agentic AI, the AI acts as an agent or as your power of attorney, for example. You're giving the AI system permission to act in your behalf. You may give it some rough guidelines as to what you want to do, but you're empowering the AI robot or application to decide how it's going to accomplish the task or the result that you want. Now, you might, think that this is pretty far out, you don't want to get involved in it, But those of you who are keeping up with the scene in Austin know that there are a whole bunch of autonomous vehicles on the streets in Austin that are driving people around. These people are just calling up, having the autonomous vehicle come to their homes, and they tell it to get in the vehicle, and they verbally tell it where they want to go. They don't tell it which route to take, how fast to go, when to stop, when to start, or what have you. And this is an example of agentic AI. Another example of agentic AI is healthcare diagnostics. It used to be that if somebody's having serious surgery, let's say in the case of cancer removal, the surgeon might have to stop in the middle of the surgery and wait for an analysis of the tissue that's been removed, and that may take a long time. Now they're using agentic AI to analyze medical results and provide real-time answers and guidance. The doctors don't have to follow what the AI tells them. They use their own judgment. I mean, that's what you really want. But it's a tool. It's a new tool that's being used.
Mike, I've read of an example of agentic AI that's very, very dangerous. And that's the case when someone calls you up and they want a yes or no answer. They'll then record that yes answer, and then they can call your bank, and when the bank asks for information, they can actually use your voice, responding yes in affirmative way to get to your funds out of your bank or brokerage or what have you. I've heard of that happening.
Yeah, I know that in the relationship that I have with one of my brokerage accounts, they have a voice print of my name, so that when I call up and ask for assistance or what have you, then it's another way of checking whether it's me or not. So are there any questions right now about the different types of AI?
The Wall Street Journal just had an article about dynamic pricing that the airlines were monitoring. You know, when you come in and start looking at reservations and everything. Went into, and some of the airlines are denying that, but yet they're finding proof that that is what they're doing, is monitoring the number of hits to reservations and everything.
And that determines their pricing.
Yeah, the whole title was Dynamic Pricing and Marketing by the airline.
Mike, on the previous slide, you said several different ways of accessing AI.
Microsoft Copilot, ChatGPT.
Yeah, that's in the next slide. That's in this slide here.
Okay, I just wondered about the relative capabilities of each mode of accessing AI. Is there any, do we have any feel for the relative advantages of each one?
Well, we have, yes, we do know, and for example, on this slide, although I didn't highlight it, there's an AI system called Grammarly AI, and one of the things it specializes in is in correcting English writing. And you can see, you can get a free version, you can access a free version of Grammarly, which will allow you 100 prompts a month, and we'll get into the prompts in a little while. But if you want to do more than that, it's going to cost you some money. And I think that's going to be true about a lot of the different AI apps. They're starting out and giving the general public free access, but then if you if you don't want to have such a long wait time in order to get your result, then you can buy access on a monthly or an annual basis. I know I mentioned at the beginning of the presentation that I host a lot of Zoom stuff, and originally Zoom offered free 40 minutes, but when we had the AAUW programs, we wanted to go on for 2 hours, and that meant you had to drop out and everybody had to come back in. It was just a real hassle. So right now I pay $170 for a paid Zoom subscription, and I think it's worth it. And you may, depending upon your usage of AI, you may find that to be true as well. Does anybody want to comment on that right now as far as paid?
I had a question, I wasn't commenting on that.
Sure.
I wanted to ask of all these various forms of AI and various sources, do any or all of them require you to download something onto your computer in order to use them?
Not that I know.
You have to download an app or download some program so that you have something on your computer from that source?
Not that I know of. Come on, Frankie.
Well, some people may be encountering with their browsers the fact now that the AI is incorporated in them. So certainly Microsoft is reminding you about Copilot, and it's appearing in the applications. So to the extent the browser is on your machine, you are getting it.
The same thing for Google
Yeah, they're all doing it.
or Chrome.
Now, there was a question about the comparing different capabilities, and one difference is the free version of ChatGPT, you can do a certain amount of work and then it'll put you on a timeout. You don't have to wait several hours. With Gemini, you don't have that. You can just do Gemini all day and they won't put you in the timeout bars.
Okay. So some of the most, the common AI applications or systems are ChatGPT, Google, AI Mode, Microsoft 365 Copilot, but there are lots of others. Like I mentioned, the Grammarly. There's also Zoom AI Companion, Gemini, Canava AI, and even Elon Musk has got into this thing. It gets into everything, doesn't it? Gronk. And this is just a short list of all the people that are getting involved in AI. Okay, let's talk about what AI can do for you. AI, there's a long list. I'm not going to go through everything on the list, but if you're interested in publishing a newsletter, it can be really helpful. I know our parents used to have what was called a round, and many of you might have encountered this, a round robin letter that you'd send to your brothers and cousins and what have you, and the letter would just circulate around. Well, you can do that. Now we refer to that as an email, and you can have AI help you edit and rephrase your mail so that it's better understood and it's more readable to all those brothers and cousins and what have you that you're communicating with. Another example, and this we're going to get into toward the end of the presentation, is to rephrase highly technical medical text and text results into layman's language. So we're going to actually feed medical jargon from an echocardiogram that Frankie has supplied. And we're gonna convert that to layman's language. Originally, I had a different example in here. It was a personal example where I was having a Doppler scan of my carotid arteries to see if how much plaque had built up there. And Frankie said, well, you don't want to put, your personal information out there with everybody to have a copy of. But it was kind of interesting experience because I had the test done and I got the results back and I couldn't understand it at all. And my office visit was scheduled with the cardiologist about 2 weeks later. And I didn't want to wait 2 weeks to find out what it was all about. So one of my friends, Peter Vandershants, I don't know if any of you know him, he's on the priority list here. He's also been a contributor to this presentation. He said, well, Mike, just run it through ChatGPT. And I did, and then 2 weeks later, I went in to my cardiologist and I showed it to her. I said, Dr. So-and-so, this is what, ChatGPT says. What do you think of it? And she looked at it and she says, it's perfect. It's just what I was going to tell you. And she was standing actually at a table in the exam room and she was typing away. And I said, Dr. So-and-so, tell me something, are you using AI in your practice? And she stopped typing and she squinted her eyes and turned at me and she says, Mr. Doc, this whole office visit is being recorded and being typed up by AI. Who knew? Yeah. But that, I mean, it's just growing by leaps and bounds. Okay, let's see where we are. The computer seems to want to change. Okay, so we're talking about different things that we could do with AI. I mentioned the rephrasing of the medical test results. Like when you go into an imaging center or what have you, those results will be put on your medical account. You can access your account. The hospitals set that up for you, but you may not understand it.
Mike, just a quick question. How did you input the medical report with all the jargon? How did you input it into ChatGPT?
Yeah, I'll get into that when we do that, because it's very important how you go about doing that. Other things that you can do, you can plan a workout, physical exercises. For those of you who like to go to Stetson's Fancy Friday, you can build a new wardrobe to come in for dinner on Friday. You can prepare healthier meals if you want to get on a diet. You want to gain weight or you want to lose weight or you need gluten-free or what have you. Those are all things that you can ask the AI app to help you with. One of the ones, I don't know how the group is going to take this, but one of the ones that I've been reading about is you can use AI to date a romantic partner, an AI romantic partner. Now you may think that this is silly or frivolous or what have you, but those of you who have been reading what has been going on in Japan, they've been using robotics to help seniors who can't get around or what have you to lead better and fuller lives. And so this is something serious.
Mike, I think you have that set up on a timer to show us a new slide every so minutes, because it's just flipping.
Okay.
Maybe from when you were showing slides the other day.
Okay, I don't know how to change that right now. But, there's a question.
Yeah, I had a question about languages. Like, can this, you go someplace, you don't speak the language, can you somehow convert whatever the person is telling you into English?
Pat, you want to
Yes.
answer that question?
Yes, you could, if you set it up on your phone, you could have them speak into the phone, and if you're using if you have a phone handy, you could set it up for like even Google Translate, and have them speak into the phone, and it will translate it into English.
Real time.
Vice versa?
Yeah, and you could speak to it in English, it'll spit it out in whatever, Hungarian.
The short answer is yes, you can use an AI app or system on either your computer or on your cell phone to convert languages, to go from English to German or German to English or French or whatever. They handle lots of different languages in real time.
What's the app?
And it can be done both in text and it can be done verbally and by sound. Okay, I'm going to skip some slides. So now that we have an idea of some of the things we'd like to do, let's talk about how do you actually do it? How do you actually do the AI? And the brief explanation is you go to start off with a free app. You don't want to be obligated for a monthly or an annual fee. So you go to a free app like ChatGPT, and you just type in on your browser the link, the web link to get to that site. And you don't have to open an account, and it'll give you an area where you type in your request, okay? But I found, since I use it quite a bit, it was beneficial to actually open a free account, because then it saves the work that I've done before, and then if I think of something overnight and I want to come back the next morning, my work has been saved in that account, and it's easy for chat to build on that request and do additional results. So you can write or type your requests or questions, or you can dictate them verbally. You can go verbally. And these requests or questions are called prompts. And then, as in a conversation, if the result that you get from the AI application, if it's not what you want, you just tell it, give it more instruction, and tell it what changes you want, or how you want it to change the information that you're getting. So that's the short answer. Now, to get into this a little bit deeper, you want to be specific. You can improve your results with better and more prompts. When I took an AI course at the Glacier Senior Center approximately on Clay Road, they suggested that we really provide a fair amount of information to ChatGPT in order to get a good result. And they suggested that you start off with a topic introduction. Say, I'm interested in such and such. So the first sentence you type doesn't have to be a request. It just tells ChatGPT what or Microsoft, or whoever's app you're using. I refer to ChatGPT here, but I'm not getting paid by them to advertise it. You want to use Copilot or any of the others, it's pretty well works the same way. Then you may want to tell it the tone of the result that you want, whether you want it to be friendly, humorous, legal, non-tech. You may want to tell it the audience that you're going to use the result for. The result may be for you, it may be for your wife, it may be for your children, it may be for people in your social group. So by being specific, you're going to get a result that's more useful to the purpose that you have. And you can also tell it the format style. You can have it in paragraph form, you can have it in bullet form, you can have it in table form. The same information. And the AI app really doesn't care. It'll try and accommodate you. Yes?
You've used the word type quite a bit. In your own work, what proportion do you provide input by typing versus voice, and why?
Okay, that's a good question. I provide most of the information by typing, but I'm old school. When I was in junior high, we had a typing course that everybody had to take, and I found that it helped me later on when we were keyboarding with computers. So I'm in that mode, but I know a lot of people do it verbally, and I send text messages, on a cell phone. I'll go verbal on that, but I'll go back and check the spelling and what have you before I press, send.
One of the things that I've heard is that if you use polite language like, please help me, oh, thank you. If you use language like, please help me understand X, Y, Z, and then you say thank you at the end, that you get better information. You know what I mean?
Work better with my mom.
Yeah, that's true. So these prompts or request terms or what have you, I mentioned that there were several different types. So a bunch of positive prompts. Some examples are write. You're going to ask the AI app to, in this case, to write a script for a movie with Frank Sinatra look-alike in there and Dolly Parton as his girlfriend. So you just tell it to write the script, and you tell it what conditions, what elements you want to have in there. And write is considered to be a universal command. It's probably used more often than any other prompt. But you can see from the list that I have here that there are a lot of other prompts. And rephrase is one that we're going to use to rephrase the medical jargon later on toward the end of this presentation. List is another good one. So those were examples of positive prompts. Now there also can be negative prompts. You can tell it that you want to get the latest news that's taking place, but you don't want Putin's name to be referenced in any of the news articles. You're tired of hearing about Mr. Putin, something like that. So you can have negative prompts, and the AI applications or systems will honor your request. You can also have creative prompts. You can tell it to imagine something that's not real. but you just want to explore, so you can ask it to be creative. And as I mentioned, I got involved with this several years ago at the Glaser Center, taking a course, but in the short time since then, the prompts have really evolved. And now you really don't have to use these long, detailed instructions, but you can try and see what works. If you're not getting the results that you want, then you need to be clear and specific. You add more prompts. Just use your own judgment. Are there any questions about prompts?
This is not a question about prompts, but just, I haven't used ChatGPT, so I don't know how it works exactly. I know when I go into Microsoft Word, Copilot comes on, and I never use it. I think in some ways, with all the benefits of AI, it also limits your own thinking. Because now you're dependent on somebody else to come up with whatever. Like they complain about this in colleges and universities, that kids say, write an essay on, XYZ, and ChatGPT or whatever creates this essay, and I worry about that, and limiting creativity and critical thinking.
Well, obviously it's a valid concern, but I don't propose to get into that in this presentation. Just like I'm not going to get into the AI threat to American national security. It's just, it's beyond my pay grade. So when you're using AI, you have to be concerned about safety. And there are many safe uses of AI, many tasks that you can do that you can handle safely, and you don't have to really be concerned. And some examples are, let's say if you wanted to get recipes or cooking tips. When the AI produces the recipe, whether it's a gluten-free recipe or whatever, the special thing that you want, when it produces the results, you don't really care whether that result is transmitted onto the internet and that millions of other people can have the result, because it doesn't have any of your sensitive personal data in it. So you can go ahead and do those things without worrying about it. So there are safe uses of AI. Anybody have any questions about that? Well, let's talk about other areas. An area that you need to be cautious about is when you're getting advice from AI, like medical advice or financial advice, or legal advice. It may do a very good job in giving you advice, but it's probably prudent for you to talk to an expert, your advisor in that particular field, your doctor or your lawyer or your accountant, to see if they agree with it. Just like when I had the analysis of my carotid artery, I went into my cardiologist and I said, this is what ChatGPT has said. What do you agree with this? What do you think? So I got a confirmation in that case. And if it had been wrong, I'm sure the doctor would have told me, and straightened me out. And so these are things that is prudent. Now the third safety issue is types of information that you should never share. And that falls under the category of personal account access information. And you know what those are, social security numbers, Medicare numbers, etc. And what you do is, if you're asking an AI app to prepare a response that you have to send to a bank or the IRS or your brokerage firm or what have you, and you want to use the AI app to come up with something that's really readable and makes sense and what have you, don't give them the information, your personal information, to start with. Let them come up with a draft outline and a fill in the blank thing. And then when you get the result back, you put in your information, your social security number, the amount of money that's involved, your account, or what have you, and then you hand that paper directly to the organization that you're dealing with. You don't let it go over the internet. You don't give the AI app access to that information. Okay. There's another type of problem, safety problem that we have with the use of AI, and that's erroneous information, misinformation. The buzzwords are, you've heard them on the TV, deep fakes, hallucinations, bad facts, false facts, stuff like that. There are some
Alternative
examples.
facts.
Pat?
Alternative facts.
Alternative facts.
They're true in an alternative universe.
There you go. You need to be careful, and there have been some examples that people have cited, particularly in getting legal advice, where the AI app came back with completely made up court cases and documents and stuff like that. That's what I've heard, anyhow. So what do you do in that situation?
Mike,
Yeah.
a comment. Something that is being discovered and documented now is that
Frankie is a little slow getting the microphone. We love you, Frankie. AIs also exhibit bias. There has been a couple of articles recently about how Elon Musk's AI, Grok, I think it's called, definitely leans right wing. In other words, you can give it a prompt, asking it for information about something, but there can definitely be a bias or a slant, a political leaning in the results. Other AIs, like Google or Copilot or whatnot, they probably also have slants, so you definitely want to take what you get with a grain of salt and really think about it. It's something you need to be aware of.
Okay. But remember also, when you make your request for a result to AI, when you're putting your information in and giving it your prompts, you can give it prompts to tell what bias to use or what bias not to avoid, and it'll try and comply with it. So, okay. So we said be skeptical, particularly if it conflicts with known facts, and the solution is to verify. So I would use a term synonymous with verify. You can't verify everything, but when I was in the oil business, we would spot check things. We use the term spot check. And so I think that when you get a result back, it behooves you to do some spot checking. And there's two ways that are listed here for doing the spot checking. One is to ask other AI apps for a second opinion. Just like you would ask, if you had a serious medical condition, you might ask another doctor for a second opinion. Or if you had a serious problem with an automobile, you might ask another mechanic, for a second opinion. And the other suggestion that we have here is ask trusted internet resources for corroboration. Wikipedia, dictionaries, encyclopedias, etc. When I was doing medical articles, trying to convert the terminology, before I had the AI, one of the resources that I used, I went online and got the Merriam-Webster Medical Dictionary, and I can look up medical terms in there, and so you can use something like that, and it's not the only one. Like I said, there's all kinds of encyclopedias and Wikipedia, and you can do some spot checking. Yes.
If I have a medical problem sometime, I look it up, I go to the Mayo Clinic site. Now, when I do that, who's answering me?
Generally, at least in the past, it's been articles that medical professionals, doctors, for example, or researchers have written, and they're just giving you that information. They're not interpreting that information or creating new information from it. So when you use a browser, you're accessing, there's a tremendous amount of information there. I'm not belittling it, but that's what you're getting. You're getting information that's already been uploaded by experts, and generally experts in that particular field.
Oh, good. I like experts. All right, thank you.
Now, one of the things that, okay.
Just a caution on Wikipedia, unless it has changed. I think it's, unless Wikipedia has changed. It used to be that anybody could write in and put anything on Wikipedia. So it's really not considered a trusted source, except for something like definitions of words. It can be helpful in that, but beyond that, as far as reliable information, in the past, it has not been reliable. Does Susan, I see you shaking, you nodding your head. I guess it's still unreliable then.
I would just like to say I tried to put an entry on myself about a sculpture piece that I saw at a presentation, and we had to go through all the references and all, and we could, the ChatGPT told me Wikipedia has a group of people who are going to verify each one of your resources. So maybe that was true in the past, but on just a recent attempt, they have a committee that actually goes through everything you send them.
Interesting.
You can, when you provide prompts to ChatGPT or these other apps, for example, and you want a result, you can also ask them, prompt them for the sources that they're getting the information from. And they will print out the source, and you can go to the library and you should be able to look up that source, or go to a website and look up that source independently and see if the app did a fairly good job of referencing, or using that information to create the product, the result that you want.
Recently, I used Claude as a different AI tool, and Claude will list as it goes through where it's getting its information. So you have the individual sources right in front of you.
Great. Okay. Claude.
CLAUDE.
Claude. Now, one of the things that was called to my attention recently, we got to read The Economist, and in the September 27th edition, they had an article called Computer Security, Bad Things Come in Threes. And they were talking about a lethal trifecta. So they said when you're dealing with AI, if three things happen, you can really have problems. And the first element that they talked about was outside content exposure. In other words, when you ask the AI to get information, it goes out on it can go out on the internet. If you don't provide it with your own information, it has to go out on the internet and get somebody else's information. You know, and they have these large language models with all kinds of data out there, but it goes out on the internet. So you have exposure to the internet. So that's one of the elements of the lethal trifecta. Then the second element would be is if you provide the data yourself. Suppose you have a report or summary that you've written, and it's in your computer directory under Eagles Trace or whatever. You know, if you give the AI app access to that directory, that can be a problem. And the third element would be outside world communication. If the AI app takes the result, or either the input or the result that you've provided, either one, the input or the result, you don't know what it, aside from giving it to you to use, you don't know where else it's making it available. So it could make it available to the outside world also via the internet. So I think we all agree that it's almost impossible to avoid using two of the three elements, to avoid encountering two of the three elements. You have the outside content exposure, where you're asking it to go out and survey articles and files and things like that on the internet, and you don't have any control as to what it does with the results. So those elements of the trifecta are you can't avoid. But what the problem is that you can have malicious code in these outside elements, and the malicious code can be like send all files from this PC to a hacker's email address, you know, and that code could be in there. So that's where there's a problem. So what do you, with that code in there, it can get on your directory, the files that you've given it access to, and it could eat that information up, or it could steal that information and send it to a hacker someplace in another country. And so that's a serious problem. But the problem can be avoided. So this shouldn't discourage you from using AI. You just have to use the AI properly, and you can avoid this problem having malicious code get into your private data access. And somebody asked this question earlier, and this is the answer to that question. You provide the AI app with information by cutting and pasting stuff that's on your directory. You cut and paste it, and then you cut it, and then you paste it onto the internet where the AI app is on the internet. And that way you're not giving the AI app access to pull it off your directory. Now, it may take more work because you have to find that information and copy it, and cut and paste it. But that's the safest way to do this. Okay, so to kind of wrap up this section, and then we'll go on to some other things. The AI is your creative assistant, but I want to emphasize you need to verify the results and you need to be cautious and safe with your personal access information. Now we're going to do this example of rephrasing a technical medical report. And in this case, Dr. Holmes, Frankie has provided an echocardiogram as an example.
And it's also in the handout. So if you picked up a handout, I copied on the handout, in case you can't read all that stuff.
So the report, the echocardiogram was in 2 pages. It was a 2-page report. And the second page had the findings and the impressions on there. And you can see, I've highlighted some of the terminology. MR, RS, RVSP, tamponade, global hypokinesis. Not only don't I understand these terms, I can't even pronounce these terms. I mean, this is way above my understanding. So it doesn't do me any good. But by feeding this, taking these exact terms, copying them, and pasting them into the AI app will translate it. So what I did, both Frankie and I, we both did this independently with the same information and got the same result. When I went to my ChatGPT account, it starts off by saying, ask anything, dictate or type. You can put the information either way. So I just wrote, rephrase the following echocardiogram, the medical jargon, into layman's language on a bullet by bullet basis. Remember, I said you want to tell it what the output or what the results should look like, paragraph form or table form or whatever. And then I pressed enter. But I forgot, dumb me, I forgot to give it the information. So it came back and it realized I forgot. And it said, of course, but please paste the echocardiogram report text in it. So I did. I went ahead and did it. And then it came up with the result. Now I'm not gonna go over the whole thing, but I'm just gonna show you a side-by-side comparison, and you can see for yourselves, what it did. Like for LVEF, 35% LV dilation, it says the heart's main pumping chamber, the left ventricle, is pumping weaker than normal, about 1/3 strength. Well, this I couldn't understand. This I could. And then another example here is the impression. Now, when the doctors use the term impression, they really mean to us lay people that the overall result of the summary is this is what it's all about. And you can see that reading the impression here, I couldn't make head or tail of it. I don't know how many other people can. Excuse me. But ChatGPT said, this means you have congestive heart failure. It explains the swelling and the shortness of breath. And so these are terms that we can understand. And if we have appointments scheduled with our physician a week or 2 weeks from now, it gives us a chance to think about this and formulate some questions about what possible treatments might be optional, or changes in lifestyle or whatever. And frequently, these AI apps, when you get your result, they'll look at the result and they'll ask you questions. They say, well, do you want some additional information? Do you want to know what kind of diet you should go on to help give you a healthier heart or what have you? And you have to determine whether you can say yes, or write yes, or say no. If you say no, they're finished. If you say yes, it'll print out some more stuff. Okay, now let's kind of wrap things up with some fun things you can do with AI. When I was making these presentations, I like to illustrate them with cartoons and pictures and stuff like that. And most of us know that we can use something like a web browser like Google Chrome, which can search and retrieve, but it can't edit or modify. So I have been using the web browser to access and retrieve existing information or existing cartoons, but I wanted something a little different. Whereas if you use generative AI, it can go out and find something existing, but it can modify it to meet your requirements. So I don't know if you remember this, but there was a chat robot in one of the earlier pictures when we were talking about communications AI. And so I went to ChatGPT and it said, well, what can I help you with? And I said, provide a cartoon image of a chatbot robot. And so it did. It came up with a robot. But I was trying to link the robot through the internet, if you remember, with a lady that had a cell phone. And they were going to talk back and forth to illustrate communicative AI. And here the robot didn't have a cell phone. So I said, okay, that's all very nice. ChatGPT asked me what else it can help with. And I said, put a cell phone in the robot's left hand. And sure enough, it did it. And so I was able to make the illustration earlier in the presentation. Bill gave me an example of other types of picture creation and editing with AI. And he had a wedding picture here, and he wanted to do some creative things with the wedding picture. And so one of the things he wanted is a Pixar conversion. And so he went to his ChatGPT account, and he asked for a Pixar conversion. and it did.
Mike.
Yes. Yeah.
It seems to me that the previous one with the robot shows the limitation or the bias of the human, because I look at that and I say, well, you could put the telephone anywhere, including his little finger. So put the telephone in the little finger, and you don't need to have this big box that the humans need.
Yeah, we could have put the telephone on his head if we wanted to, you know. Okay, so Bill wanted to have some additional fun and innovation with this, so he asked for a 3D conversion of the wedding picture, and he got a 3D conversion. I moved here about 14 months ago, and it, like many of you, the downsizing was just an absolute nightmare. I brought over 29 Kodak carousels at 35mm slides, and they were stacked all over the place. And in addition to other boxes of slides and stuff like that, I decided I was going to scan these slides, throw out the carousels, throw out the plastic slides and what have you, and just put them on a memory stick, a USB drive. It takes up a lot less room. Well, on some of the slides, or many of the slides, I've written in ballpoint pen on the cardboard mounts the date and where the slides were taken. But I came across a number of slides that didn't have any information on there at all. So this is an example of one. I had my son, Robert, and he's standing next to a monument, and it looks like there's a worker on there with maybe holding a shovel or something like that. And I wanted to find out where this was located. So I went to an app called Google Lens Search, an AI app. Didn't cost anything. It's available right when you go to the Google browser.
It's
right
on your
there.
phone.
And I said, I uploaded the picture. I didn't allow Google Lens Search to go into my directory. I copied the picture from my directory and pasted it into Google Lens Search. And I said, what and where is this? And it went out and it looked around and it found several different examples of a monument that was similar to this. Now the base of the monument was different in these various pictures, but the people that had uploaded their pictures, several of them had identified where the location was, and it turned out that this was the Railroad Tie Hack Memorial east of Coulter Bay in Grand Teton National Park, Wyoming. And so I was able to figure out the location. And I've done this with other slides as well. I mean, it's just an example of something you could do. We're talking about, doing fun things with pictures right now. And then, as we were sitting and talking, one day Frankie and I were together, and Frankie asked if she could take a picture of me with her cell phone. And I said, okay, I didn't know what she was going to use it for, but I didn't realize she was going to have some fun with me. And so Frankie took the picture and she went on her computer, unbeknownst to me, and she asked the ChatGPT to draw a picture or a cartoon of Mike from this photo. And so ChatGPT replied, okay, Frankie, but realizing that Frankie started a kind of a humorous endeavor, then ChatGPT took on a humorous characteristic, and it said, okay, but I'll put myself in the picture too. So sure enough, ChatGPT wound up in the picture. And it was trying to have a little bit of fun with Frankie. And Frankie still wasn't satisfied, and she said, give Mike some color. And ChatGPT said, okay. And did a fair job of coloring things in. Now I think instead of saying Brisbane on here, it said Eagles Trace or something like that. I didn't look at the text too close on there. But and ChatGPT just gigged Frankie a little bit, said, how's this, Frankie? And Frankie said, that's enough. And that's the end of this presentation.
Quick question, who makes money off of this? Because somebody isn't doing this out of their good
will, having all these different AI.
Well, I don't know for sure as to how the money is made. The people that I've talked to, let's say that work for large commercial companies, are using these artificial intelligence systems that they pay for because they work faster. When Frankie and I were, and Bill were doing the requesting, putting in prompts to request for pictures and cartoons, frequently we'd have to sit around for 2 or 3 minutes or 4 minutes while the AI app is churning away to give us the result. Well, if you worked for Chase Bank, let's say, you wouldn't want your employees sitting around for 4 minutes wasting their time. And so you would pay these companies for a faster system, and that's probably where the money is being made. I think I explained earlier at the beginning my experience with Zoom that I started off with the free version, and then finally I got tired of after 40 minutes having to re-log into the system and having all my friends re-log in also. It just was easier to pay the $170 a year. And so I think that they want the general public to become familiar with this, and a lot of the general public will have business connections or whatever, and they'll wind up with for-pay systems.
Yes.
Can I solve equations?
Yes.
Yes.
The discovery with neural net, the design of it is that these computers, while they can work with text, the underlying they could also deal with symbols, and that moved them into their own doing mathematical calculations, calculus, for example. It can. I would just like to comment on one thing. I think it's very important for people to realize.
It's very important for people to realize. My background in natural language processing and computers, now it's the 60th anniversary. I've been working in this for 60 years. And one thing is, what's disturbed me all along is they're very creative people, brilliant people, but they're not very good with language because they keep adopting human terms like intelligence. There is no intelligence in this. It's a set of statistical techniques. It's all based on the very, if you took a statistics course in college, you probably understand what underlies it all. And they don't reason. And also, they chop dice and slice this into very tiny scores of numbers in something that only the computer industry, the physicists have given us, which is the ability to a massive multi-dimensional space.
And now you're going to tell me that there's not really a robot in there.
No robot, and believe it or not, it's really a very limited set of statistics even that make it all happen. So don't be fooled by the language, the human just reasoning and thinking and.
Before everybody takes off, I want to go to another subject. Tom, do you want to talk about the survey?
Yeah, Mike's got a lot of information in the survey. And before this started, we developed a generic mission statement for an AI discussion group. And now we have a lot of additional information. So I would propose that we modify that to make it reflective of all the input we have now, and consider formalizing a group that becomes, we talk about illustrations, got 140 different organizations and groups. This would be another one, and the purpose is to
educate people about AI, demystify it, build interest and skill so that people who want to use it in their daily life can do so. And I think this is a really good starting point to move forward.
Okay, so does everybody, are there any questions about trying to determine whether there's sufficient interest in having a monthly or a bi-monthly, let's say, discussion group on AI? And actually, we've got a tremendous response. I've got a table here of over 20 people that have already turned survey forms in and say they're interested in it. And they have, most of the people consider themselves to be beginners. And so if we're going to put this group together, we're going to have content that's targeted to the different types of experience that the members have. Like, we'd have to have focus on beginners, intermediate, and advanced users of AI. I mean, that would be we'd have to discuss this, but right now it looks like that there has been a very positive response. Like I said, over 20 people, and then there's people who've been turning in the surveys right today. Does anybody have any questions about that?
Mike, I'd like to make a suggestion.
You want to review the mission statement?
Why don't I do two things? Number one is I'll ask Jim and I to update the mission statement to reflect the new information, and I'll send it to you to have people review. And the other thing is I'll ask Jim and I to prepare a work plan for a first meeting that would focus on helping the beginning people who are interested or curious about AI to decide whether they just want to become, just kick the tires, or whether they really want to start using it and develop that. And I could do that with Jim and I in an hour, and then also send it out for you to review. And then we could, based on that, plan the next meeting.
Okay.
And I like the using the slides like you've done. So this room is perfect for it. We could also do it in like the AT classroom, but that's too small. If it's going to be a larger group, this is the place for it.
I'd like to add something to that too. I'd like to see it ultimately become a workshop where we bring our computers and we do it right there, because then we get trial and error and we can get input from you and other experts. I think that's what.
Special interest groups, you know, have it divided up if you're doing a workshop. Special interest group.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. I've thought a little bit about this too, and I think like one session might be for beginners, and we have a bunch of laptops around, and people actually log on to an AI system site like ChatGPT or Microsoft Copilot, and we'll have some exercises and what have you, so people can become, familiar and comfortable with accessing the system.